Shalom, shalom. Trump losing war on all fronts. Oil, tariffs, Strait of Hormuz, China. Now I'm gonna have three segments. They're like not even no more than a minute long each. Of these gentlemen, Lee Camp and Graham Elwood. I've been following these guys for like 5 years, and they've been pretty much exposing American government, all the war crimes they've done over the years, and everything. Lee Camp, he's descended from Robert Lee, also. So I mean, these guys are pretty much in depth. They know what's going on. And Robert Lee also Lee Camp. I'm sorry. On the right side of the screen, he actually is Jewish, so to say. So we'll leave it at that. And Graham Elwood, he's Irish American. But what they're gonna do, they're gonna go into what's going on with Trump, and his war and things that the Western media is not pretty much speaking on to go to show you how America is really losing this war, and that is not going to turn out too well for them. So before I proceed, I want to give all honor, glory, and praises to the Most High Yahawah, the Most High Yahawah, and His only begotten Son YAHAWASHI, whom the world English called Jesus because the letter J in the English alphabet did not exist 2,000 years ago. Double honors to my elders at Great Millstone, taught me the truth of the Spirit. Singing honors to the elect, peace and blessed to the 1/3, and to the confusion of faces to the 4 corners of the earth. Shalom. So let's get it started.
A tough job. A lot of people don't realize how tough his job is.
It's tough when most of your base has short-term memory loss, and they're now on Twitter going, Trump's the peacemaker. He made the deal. He bombed Iran. He created the Strait of Hormuz getting closed. He caused global panic with the oil markets. And then he was kind of losing the war a little bit, because Iran was kind of sticking it to him in ways he didn't anticipate. All these generals did, and they said, don't bomb him, and he didn't listen. Yeah. So he makes all of these dumb, it's the same thing. You're right. The tariffs were a bad idea. I fixed the tariff thing. The thing
if you look at, a lot of people don't realize, if you look at the deal that he ultimately signed with China, it's almost identical to where things started when he took office in the second term. Like, they made all these promises to buy this many soybeans or whatever, which was basically the amount of soybeans they would have bought otherwise. Like, he just got it back to where it was.
So pretty much what Trump is doing, it's called ordo ab chaos. They create a chaotic situation and they try to bring order to make it seem as if that they are, the glue, the adhesiveness to bring everything together, the band-aid on the scratch, on the bruise. So this is Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 23. Remember, America is the mystery before Babylon all over again. Like the Bible said, there's nothing new underneath the sun. You can find every aspect of all kingdoms that was prior to America here, but the first heathens to rule will be the Babylonians, and the Babylonians, America carry on a lot of their customs as well. Babylonians go back to the so-called Africans today. All right. I'm sorry. That land. I'm sorry. The land goes back to where ancient Iraq is today. I apologize. I don't know why I said that. Jeremiah 15:23. How was the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How was Babylon become a desolation among the nations? This is symbolic. The hammer, when you hammer down on something, like you're saying you laying it down, like this is it. There's nothing else. That's the same thing they do in the court. They have a mallet. A wooden mallet also is a small hammer. And America tries to judge the whole world, tries to govern the whole world. So this is symbolic, saying how was the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken. Right now, America is losing its political power, especially globally. And it says, how's Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Soon America will become a desolation, meaning it will be wiped off the face of the earth. But a lot of other prophecies must be fulfilled. Verse 24, I have laid a snare for thee. Snare is another word for trap. And thou art also taken, O Babylon. And thou was not aware, thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. Right? So what's happening is that Job, the 12th chapter, when the Lord said the deceived and the deceiver are his, remember, in Romans the 9th chapter, the Lord said he hardened Pharaoh's heart for his will, meaning that he put it in Pharaoh's mind to not let Israel go when we was in ancient Egypt to show his power. So the Lord is doing the same thing with Trump. He done it with all kings, all rulers on the earth. Remember when Nebuchadnezzar was living like a wild animal in the fields? Right, so the Lord is working on the mind of Trump to be the demise of America. I mean, when you're looking at what's happening, like, yo, what are you doing? I mean, you could be a Democrat, Republican, conservative. You could be what liberal. You'd be like, yo, like this is not helping America. This is not helping the world. But this is the Most High doing this. Understand? So let's get back to it.
I know. At best, a lot of these deals are a little bit less than what they were prior to his.
Yeah, no, I'm making light of the fact that he gets things almost back to where they were. But the truth is, this has been an utter catastrophe for the United States, because it proved that the United States, with $1 trillion military, can essentially lose to a country with a $10 billion military, which is 1% of what the U.S. spends. Like, it did not protect the petrodollar, which I believe is the root of why we did this. In fact, it ramped up the petro yuan. Everyone's like, we got to get the fuck away from the dollar.
Oh, you know what else it did? You saw all of these countries cut ties with the U.S. You know, like Thailand,
or at least be at odds with the U.S. Yeah.
Yeah, or just say like Thailand. They were celebrating. They made a deal with Iran to get one of the tankers through the Strait of Hormuz for Thailand, because all of Asia, especially Southeast Asia, doesn't really produce any oil. So they're most of Asia, and China's part of this as well, is completely dependent upon imports for oil.
All right, so you just heard that clip. Now that was something that was said. They said that people are going towards the petro yuan. Understand the history of America, right? 2 years ago, Saudi Arabia quietly canceled the petrodollar deal with America that wired the world economy for 50 years. Then war broke out in Iran. See, over the years, you've been hearing a lot about petrodollar. Well, the dollar isn't backed by anything. Back around 1967, Saudi Arabia had, I think they put an embargo on oil on America for backing Israel. Remember, 1948 is when they had the state of Israel created during that time, and there was a lot of fighting going on amongst the Jewish sector and the Muslims. And Saudi Arabia didn't like that. What they was going to do, they was going to use their oil, where they possibly could have used their oil against America as a threat, as a weapon. Hence, Henry Kissinger went over there and created a petrodollar, killed the gold standard, kept a lot of Saudi Arabian gold, and told them we'd give you military aid and protection. But you have to sell your oil under our dollar. So that linked all the world with the petrodollar. So here in this article, it says the gold standard may have ended in the early 1970s, but something else quietly took its place for the next 50 years. Oil. The so-called petrodollar system wasn't well understood for most of this time, but a secret deal between Henry Kissinger and Saudi Arabia ensured the dollar would remain the dominant reserve currency. The outbreak of war in Iran is exposing America's Achilles heel. Exactly. Though, as China positions the petro yuan as the obvious successor, and to top it all off, the Saudis quietly killed the petrodollar 2 years ago. That's why this guy you see on the screen is going 8 doo-doo out here in the world, because they're trying to get all this oil. They don't have nothing to back the dollar. And now it's hurting the world economy that other countries are starting to pretty much veer away from America and to side with Iran and its allies as well.
I know. At best, a lot of these deals are a little bit less than what they were prior to his.
Yeah, no, I'm making light of the fact that he gets things almost back to where they were. But the truth is, this has been an utter catastrophe for the United States, because it proved that the United States, with $1 trillion military, can essentially lose to a country with a $10 billion military, which is 1% of what the U.S. spends. Like, it did not protect the petrodollar, which I believe is the root of why we did this. In fact, it ramped.
And I just read that article for you guys. So this is something that's been happening. This is something that's been in the making. All right. This is all about oil, y'all. This is all about oil.
Up the petro yuan. Everyone's like, we got to get the fuck away from the dollar.
Oh, you know what else it did? You saw all of these countries cut ties with the U.S. You know, like Thailand,
or at least be at odds with the U.S. Yeah.
Yeah, or just say like Thailand. They were celebrating. They made a deal with Iran to get one of the tankers through the Strait of Hormuz for Thailand, because all of Asia, especially Southeast Asia, doesn't really produce any oil. So they're most of Asia, and China's part of this as well, is completely dependent upon imports for oil.
This minute segment is very heavy, because remember, at the beginning he said that Iran had like a $10 billion military, which is like 1% of America's military. And look at how it's crippling America. I'm just saying in general, crippling America in this war, making America look so vulnerable, so ineffective. Because you're just trying to just bomb the shit out of Iran, but Iran is strategically crippling you. Look at what's happening to the world economy. They shut down the Strait of Hormuz. You mean to tell me a small country like Thailand can get a ship through, but a big broly country like America can't? This goes back to the hammer being cut asunder. You don't have that power anymore. And country like Thailand, like, oh we don't ship oil. We don't really need oil. Hey, can we get these goods through? Yeah, go ahead through. Boom, boom. Rest of the world, like, hey, well, why can't y'all come through? Because of Trump in America. This is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, his wine is his foreign policies. Right? He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, over 180 something military bases globally. Right? I think China only has like 2 or 3 outside of their country. Come on. Who enlargeth his desire as hell. Everywhere he goes is hell. Right? Like I say in the movie Planet of the Apes, the original one, he's the harbinger of death. And is as death, right? It cannot be satisfied. Why is that? What was Esau's blessing? To live by the sword and have the fatness of the earth. Right? But gathereth unto him all nations. He did that with the petrodollar. And heapeth unto him all people, which America, the mystery whore Babylon, is the melting pot of all nations. Because you can find almost everyone on here. You have some tribes in like Brazil and Africa, Papua New Guinea, that you can't touch foot there, they'll kill you. But nonetheless, you can find almost everybody. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can find an Eskimo here too. Not to use that word because that's derogatory, but if you understand what I mean by that. Right. America is not looking too good right now. Also, Habakkuk 2 and 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? That's America trying to take somebody else's oil. You already got Maduro's, right? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And for those who know about the blue letter Bible, when you go into that word clay, that word clay is ibat. I think it's ibatia, which means heavy debt. So America is up to neck in debt. Wow. Lo and behold, man, that's just the times we live in, and these are just the prophecies to show you that America is losing this war, and sooner or later, America's going to lose its foothold on being the world power.
What? Yeah, go ahead. I have something to say about China, but go ahead.
They mostly are dependent upon imports for oil, especially countries like Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. All those countries are dependent upon imports.
Yeah.
So they were like, all right, well, let's make a deal with Iran and get some. And they,
yeah.
I mean, The other thing too is I guarantee you, China, which already, like going back to 10 years ago, but in the last 5 years said we're going more electric. We're of these.
That's what I was going to add is China has seen this coming for years. At least since the beginning of the first Trump term, they realized we got to get away from any kind of energy spigot that the U.S. can turn off, even if they have to go to war with Iran to turn it off. And so they've been, not only do they have an incredible amount of oil in reserves, like they have huge oil reserves, they've ramped up their coal, which is terrible for the environment, but China has coal. And they've also ramped up all their electric energy. They put in the equivalent of 5 nuclear power plants of green energy per week in China. So they've been preparing for this.
Oh, yeah.
Once again, they've been prepared for this. So in other words, I don't like Graham looking like that. Got Graham looking crazy. So going back, for those of you who know about the nations today, who they are biblically, China would be the Moabites, the descendants of Lot. And Lot was the nephew of Abraham. When Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, Lot, his daughters, 2 daughters, and his wife were to escape. The Lord gave specific instructions to not go back or look back. Lot's wife looked back, and she was turned to a pillar of salt. Therefore, seeing that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, and now this part right here, I'm spiritually speculating. The 2 daughters figured that they were the only people left on earth survived during that time. I'm spiritually speculating. They didn't say this in the Bible. So what happened was that they got their father drunk, and they slept with their father. Lo and behold, you have the Moabites, who would be so-called Chinese people today, and you have the Ammonites, who would be the so-called Japanese people today. Now, does that sound far-fetched, people? 2 daughters got their own father, biological father, drunk and had him impregnate both of them. Why do you think the Asiatic people, so to say, the Mongolian people, so to say, have those slanted eyes like that? It's from close crossbreeding, genetics. Understand? Not to be derogatory. I'm just using genetics and biology. So, going back to the scriptures, this is why I brought that up. Psalm 60:8. Moab, China, is my wash pot. Over Edom, so-called white man, woman, and child, while I cast out my shoe. Remember that shoe was thrown at George Bush? George W. Bush. Philistines are known to be where? In the land of Israel. Triumph thou because of me. That's a heavy precept. We're talking about the Chinese, America. We're talking about China, America, and the land of Israel, all in one verse. That's a heavy verse right there, y'all. And y'all love Psalms. So Moab is the Lord's washpot, mean what? They clean up America. That's what's happening right now. That's why I say look at the tariffs and all that. That's not hurting China. Because a lot of those Southeast China companies, like they said, well, not Southeast China companies, China, 10 years ago, been ahead of this. They want to make everything electric. Everything electric. Matter of fact, I think it's a little bit more on this, and then I'm going to close out. But listen to what they're saying. This is heavy.
I mean, I saw it just when I was in Beijing in January, and it was my first time there since 2015. And the whole city went from gas-powered scooters and cars. Everything was electric. Everyone's driving around electric scooters. Oh. Everything. And Beijing has had a huge smog problem, and they still do on occasion, but it's much less.
Better than it was, yeah.
And also, you know, there's these Chinese. Like my first time in Thailand a year and a half ago, I got in a Grab, which is basically their Uber.
I bet you did. That's what we do in Thailand.
That's what you said. And it was this all electric car, and I was like, where? And it was Chinese, and the driver told me what they paid for it, and I converted, and it was about 17, maybe 15, $16,000 US to get this really nice all electric car, comfortable seats. And that's the thing, those aren't for sale here. So to get an electric car in America, brand new one, it's going to cost you in the neighborhood of about 30 grand.
There's an electric car that's sold in China that you can't get here, that it has a range. It doesn't have a huge range. Got a range of like 17 miles. It's kind of like a glorified golf cart. But if you were like wanted to get around your town, small town or neighborhood or whatever, it's amazing. Costs $1,600.
Yes. Oh,
And
dude.
the shipping would be like $2,000 to get it to the United States, but you add all that up, that's still $3,600 for an electric car.
There's
So the rest of the world is pretty much like shying away from gas. And like, as you can hear, like over there in Thailand and China, they have all these electric vehicles and everything like that, and they're cheap compared to having to use petrol, or compared to the price of vehicles over here that are breaking down. You get, you're getting recalls and all of that. So America's on this last leg. Like I said, I didn't want to make this too long, but I had to make sure I get my points across. And I'm going to close out with the rest of these precepts from Psalm 60 and 8. Moab is 60 and 8 through 12. Moab is my washpot, over Edom will I cast out my shoe. Philistia, triumph thou because of me. Who will bring me into the strong city? Who will lead me into Edom? Will not thou, O God, which hadst cast us off? And thou, O God, which didst not go out with our armies? Give us help from trouble, for vain is the help of man. Through God we shall do valiantly. I love that word. It's kind of hard to pronounce, but I love it. Through God we shall do valiantly, for he it is that shall tread down our enemies. So keep your eye on the prize and stay alive. That being said, I truly pray y'all was edifying, fed. Stay in the spirit. Don't fear it, just endure it. Ask for forgiveness. Pray without ceasing. Stay humble. Remain diligent. Kwame Allah. Maflapa Ball. Shalom.